My number 3 wide receiver, and this is kind of easy. You guys can use your imagination to figure out who my final 3 guys are, but I'll do this anyway. And we start with Devonta Smith as my 3rd wide receiver in this draft. We don't know how accurate these numbers are. He didn't work out for anybody, in this offseason. He did not weigh in. He didn't measure. He didn't run. He didn't do anything. He said, look, I've been weighing what I've been weighing. Like, that hasn't changed. Well, what the hell have you been weighing? Because depending on who you talk to, hey, you ain't 175 pounds soaking wet, bruh. So he could easily be a ball 63 for all we know. Like, he's hiding from us for a reason, but the tape don't lie. And if he weren't who he was, he'd be dinged and knocked for not doing anything this draft season. But because this guy is the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, and he played at Alabama, he didn't play at Central Michigan, okay? He played at Alabama. He played against the best college football has to offer. Played in the toughest conference with the best corners and the best athletes. He played against Clemson multiple times in his career. Everything that you try to put against him and say, well, you ain't big, go check the tape and then come back to me. And if you got a problem, all right, cool. But the tape tells you all you need to know. And so let's flip this thing over and talk about why Devonta Smith is my number 3 wide receiver and why he has a chance to be special at the next level. So first things first is his speed. We can't actually put a time to this, speed that we talked about with him. But how many guys you got to run past in college football in order to be labeled as fast? My whole thing with him this offseason is, look, you didn't have to let anybody measure you. You didn't have to go through any drills if you didn't. But why not run? Unless you're hiding something. Fast guys run fast, right? If you a 4.37, if you a 4, and reports are he's a 4.5 guy. He didn't look like a 4.5 guy at Alabama. I'm just saying. I'm not saying, I'm just saying. I saw him run by a lot of guys. A lot of guys. Okay? I don't know if he is a legit, 4.3 guy or not. He's definitely, I don't buy the 4.5 hype that people were trying to sell us on. I think he's a 4.4 dude. Whatever the case may be. He might be Jerry Rice for all we know in that category. Remember, Jerry Rice ran a 4, I think he ran like a 4.55 at his pro day. Who was catching Jerry Rice from behind in the NFL? Who did that? Who caught Jerry Rice on the slant? Name me one dude that hawked Jerry Rice down from behind after he caught his famous slant. Nobody catches Jerry Rice from behind. Catch that 4.5 then. So I don't know about Devonta Smith or what he's running. I know on game day, wasn't nobody catching him. Once he got ahead of steam, they weren't catching him. He's a long strider, though. Man, does he eat up grass with those strides. It happens so fast. I'm a Notre Dame Fighting Irish fan, and I'm watching him eat us up in that playoff game. And early in that ball game, he throws a bubble screen, and he just runs down the side. I'm like, somebody catch his ass. And they couldn't. They couldn't. I'm like, this is bullshit. Different game, different team. He still wins. It's Devonta Smith, man. Acceleration. Again, I just talked about an instance where he caught the football, essentially flat-footed, turned up the field, and within an instant, he was at top speed, and nobody could even bother to knock him out of bounds. And I'm like, how? Why? Seriously, what? Come on, guys. He ain't that damn fast, is he? Yes, he is. Clemson had to find that out, Ohio State had to find that out in the first half, to the tune of 12 catches for 215 yards. It's plenty fast. So the acceleration, the run after the catch, he's not a make-you-miss guy from a run after catch standpoint. But boy, does he outrun angles. He's an ankle beater. He's got ridiculous body control. I remember watching that Ohio State national championship game. And there was a catch where he had his feet down in bounds and he had to stretch over the out of bounds stripe to get to the football. And I remember pausing it, taking a photo of it, and uploading it and saying, this guy's ridiculous. The amount of body control and contortion that he is. And he's got one of those Gumby-like frames, one of those really angular, skinny frames that you can contort and change. And he does a fantastic job of controlling that frame that he has and bending it, twisting it to allow him to make some catches that a lot of guys just aren't capable of making. Natural hands, you know. What more can I say? What more do I need to say? I mean, how many Devonta Smith drops did you see? Not many. There were a couple. There are a hell of a lot more catches, though. I tell you that much. A hell of a lot more catches in some tight windows and in traffic and in tough spots. The back of the end zone where you're not supposed to make that catch. I can just tell you this. He's got natural hands. Technical route running ability. I would put him in the same category that I put Calvin Ridley in coming out of Alabama. Jerry Jeudy is probably a notch below them, but not too far. Of those guys that stick their foot in the ground. I mean, really, really stick their foot in the ground. They accentuate that step so much so that they give you that hard head and shoulders, give you some dandruff, and break you off. He doesn't even have to do all of that. He's just silky smooth with it. But he's just creating just infinite amounts of separation. Some of that is a byproduct of, hey, man, I don't want to get embarrassed vertically. And you see that with guys with Kadarius Toney and Elijah Moore and some, Jalen Waddle and some of these guys in this draft but just off of the sheer fact that you don't want to get embarrassed by a guy that can take you to school vertically, you go ahead and bail. You open up and you start running, and he just comes back like it's nothing to the football. 12 back to 10, easy money, like stealing. He's an exceptional technical route runner. Constant separator. Like, there aren't many times where he's out in space. Yeah, when he's over the middle of the field, yeah, there's traffic, and he may have to make a tough catch. When he's running a slant, sometimes he's got to make a tough catch. But if he's outside working, if he's at the X or he's at the Z working, he's breaking dudes off. He's wide open. I'm like, well, goddamn. You didn't think to get closer to 6? You didn't think he could hurt you by giving him that much space? Just consistently wide open because he separates. He can catch it in traffic. And he's one of those guys that he turns 50-50 balls into 70-30 balls. So 50-50s aren't 50-50s with Devonta Smith. Those are the guys we call go-getters. They're go-getters. They go get the ball. You just throw it up, and I feel confident that 70% of the time my guy's going to go get it. He's a go-getter. When you're a 50-50 guy, you might catch it, you might not catch it. It's a 50-50 proposition. That's why they call it a 50-50 ball. I'm going to give my guy a chance. He's not, when you throw the ball up to Devonta Smith, you're not giving your guy a chance. You're throwing the ball to Devonta Smith. If there just happens to be a defender there. It's not the same thing. So he's a guy that just goes up and gets it. He's a go-getter. He's a 70-30 guy. Not a 50-50 guy. He's a 70-30 guy. Formational flex. You can move this guy all around the formation. X, Z, slot, you name it. He's done it, and he's excelled at it. You want to take your number one corner, and you want to shadow him. That's fine. He can get broken off outside at X. He can get broken off as a flanker at Z, or he can get broken off in the slot. However you want it, you can get it. You don't have 1,856 yards receiving and 117 catches by accident. It's because guys can get it anywhere, anyhow. However you want it, you get it. 3rd and 7, 1st and 10, First and 20. We're down 14 at the end of a ball game. How about him simply running right by Derek Stingley in 2019? The one thing you're telling your defender, hey, we up 2 scores. They need 2 of them. Just don't let anybody behind you. First play, he runs by Derek Stingley like he was standing still. Are you kidding me? Now, there was another play in that game where Stingley's looking over at the sidelines. They snapped the ball, and Devonta Smith just smoked him. But at the end of the game, when you know, hey, they trying to get us vertically, for you to still be able to run by a guy, damn, that's saying something. Competes as a blocker and toughness. You know, and I wanna package this up with the next strength, hyper competitive. His head coach goes to bat for him like nobody's business. You know, Nick Saban was like, look, y'all can talk about his size and no, he's not the biggest guy in the world. I've never been around a guy with a bigger heart that was more competitive than Devonta Smith. And you know where that's illustrated? In the run game. That's when you see the true test of a guy and his heart. I talk about this all the time. For a receiver, blocking is like a rebounder in basketball. You don't have to be skillful as a rebounder. It helps if you understand angles and trajectories and how the ball is going to come off the rim. Yeah, it helps to be a Ben Wallace or a Dennis Rodman, where you just clean the glass every night and you know where the ball's coming off because that's what you do. But you don't have to be one of those guys to get 10 boards. If you want it, you can get it. That's a sheer determination thing. Russell Westbrook averaged a triple-double in multiple seasons, not because he's a tremendous rebounder. It's because he just wanted the ball more than you did. Hey, I'm about to miss this shot, but I want this rebound more than you do, so I'm going to go get it and put it back in. Moses Malone used to get 25 rebounds in a game, not because Moses Malone was more athletically gifted than you. Zach Randolph wasn't more athletically gifted than you. He just wanted it more. He would jump and tap it again and tap it again, and those count as rebounds. When a guy doesn't block, it's because he doesn't want to block. It's not because he can't block. You might get overpowered. He's not a big guy. Devonta Smith is not a big guy. I don't want to hear the excuse of, oh, I'm too small. He's a small guy. But he wants to block. So he does. And that's what Nick Saban's talking about. Not just the toughness of breaking dislocating your finger so much so that it's almost like a broken finger that you can't snap into place, yet you want to go back in the game. No, I'm not just talking about that toughness. No, I'm talking about the toughness to get in there with the big boys and get physical and get nasty. Let's get physical. Takes a different type of dude to do that. Takes a different, and I told you this before, it takes a different breed to go back and field punts. You got dudes running at you 25 miles an hour, looking to knock your head off. Takes a different type of dude to say, I want to run back kickoffs and punts. Devonta Smith's like, where I sign up at. I want to do that too. So he's hyper competitive. He competes as a blocker, and he's tough as nails. And that bleeds into special teams value. You got to be tough to want to return kicks, especially when you're not the biggest guy in the world. And finally, my favorite thing about him is, or favorite 2 things are, I should say, he's a BTBer and his productivity. So what is a BTBer? It's a big-time baller. And I used to use this a lot back in the day to describe prospects, but you don't get too many of these dudes coming into the league anymore. So I don't usually use this often like I used to. Can't just hand those out to anybody. He's a BTBer. And the reason why I give him the distinction of a BTBer, a big-time baller, is go check his resume, okay? I went through and I looked at every big name corner that we're talking about in this year's draft that he had a chance to go up against. And I wanted to see if he was able to work those dudes or not. And he was. And even some guys not in this year's draft that we know is going to be good eventually when he gets to the league, like a Derek Stingley Jr. We know he's going to be good. He's going to be a highly rated corner. I watched him work over J.C. Horn of South Carolina. I watched him put him in the damn mixer on a slant. J.C. Horn jumping all over the damn place on a slant. Crossed him up, got him turned around, jumping the wrong way. Yeah, put him in the mixer. Derek Stingley, I already told you how he worked him over in 2019. How about Eric Stokes Jr. of Georgia? Oh, he worked his ass over too. Gave him business. Campbell, put him on a highlight reel. Wade, everybody was doing Wade up. That's not a big accomplishment, but still, you see where I'm going with this. You name it, he did it. I'm pretty sure he gave Patrick Surtain fits, or Surtain the second fits in practice. His resume is long, it's robust, and everybody got some. When he started spraying, when he was pulling the trigger, everybody got hit. Everybody left wet. And you look at his last 2 years, utterly ridiculous. I mean, obviously, to win a Heisman Trophy, you've got to have some kind of special year. 117 receptions, 1,856 yards, 15.86 yards per grab, and 23 touchdowns. Let me repeat that last number for some of you who don't quite understand that number and need it to be put into proper context. I was just lauding and praising Terrence Marshall Jr. for having 23 touchdowns in the last 2 years combined. Devonta Smith had 23 touchdowns just this past season. The year before that, 68 grabs, 1,256 yards, 14 touchdowns. Okay? 37 scores over the last 2 years. The man finished up his career with 46 touchdowns. So, what I'm telling you is, the guy is ridiculous from a productivity standpoint. I find it hard to believe that that's not going to translate to the next level. I just do. Weaknesses. Look, there's no getting past his frame and size. It's long, it's angular, he's skinny, and he's not going to put on any more weight. If he could, he would. He can't. If he's 171 pounds, he's 171 pounds, which is why he said, I've been weighing what I weigh. That's not going to change. If they got me listed at $175, I'm $175. That shit ain't going to change. That's what I am. People question if he's even that. The dislocated finger in the national championship game, it's still healing. It's one of the weirdest dislocated fingers you've ever heard of, because normally when you dislocate a finger, you just pop it back into place. Yeah, it's going to be very sore the next day and sore for a while, but you'll be okay. His finger almost was broken. It was so badly dislocated, they couldn't pop it back into place. He wanted to put a splint on it and go back into the game. They're like, bro, you got 12 catches for 215 yards. We got this game well in hand. You don't need to go back in. He was begging to go back in. But it is something just to consider. And not because of the finger and it won't heal properly, he won't catch it at the next level. It's because shit like this may happen to him more often because he's a smaller guy. Physically, can he handle blocking assignments at the next level? I mean, that's debatable. He has the want to. That's all I can ask for. He's willing to do the work. Everything I just mentioned to you, not really big deals, okay? Outside of his size, that may be a non-starter for some of you out there. It's a physical game. I will admit the NFL is a much more physical game than the SEC is. He'll be fine. I got a top 15 projection. I don't see this guy getting out of the top 15 picks. I don't care how many quarterbacks go, how many tackles go. I don't see him slipping past 15. So, and I know New England doesn't need a receiver. We'll see. It'd be amazing if he gets past 15. I don't see how he does. I don't see how he gets past the Eagles at, 12. So, my comp for him is Marvin Harrison. Harrison wasn't the strider that Devonta Smith was, or is, I should say. But Devonta Smith's game mirrors that of a Marvin Harrison. He's got the same frame. Harrison was a very skinny guy. I don't know if you guys remember this, but Marvin Harrison was a super small guy. He wasn't 200 pounds. Marvin Harrison was like a $180, maybe a $185, but I wouldn't be shocked if he was listed at like 170 something. And Marvin Harrison was a skinny dude, but he would break your ass off so fast and lull you to sleep, and the next thing you know, he's running right by you. And Peyton Manning's putting it up, and Harrison's going and getting it. I see a lot of similarities between the two of those guys. I think he has the ability to be a Marvin Harrison type at the next level. So he's my number 3 wide receiver, and I'd take him in a heartbeat. No questions asked, no equivocations.
LouieTeeNetwork.